The morning sun filtered through the tall windows of the courthouse, casting long and steady shadows across the polished wooden floors. In this temple of law and order, every detail carried weight, from the soft rustle of legal documents to the steady ticking of the clock on the wall. Behind the elevated bench sat a woman whose presence commanded immediate respect. Her nameplate was clear and bold, bearing the name Judge Ebony K. Williams. For her, this courtroom was not just a place of judgment, but a place where the soul of the country was reflected through the lens of individual lives. She often told those who entered her sanctuary that she was a woman shaped by the rich soil of North Carolina and the vibrant spirit of Louisiana, tempered with a certain West Coast cool and sharpened by a New York edge. To her, the only thing that mattered in this particular courtroom was how she perceived the truth, guided by the pillars of freedom and integrity. On this particular afternoon, the air was thick with the anticipation of a small but significant dispute. The case involved Cheryl Collins, a woman who had built her life and career in the digital world, and Jason Sutton, a man dedicated to the education of the next generation. As the proceedings began, Judge Williams looked down at the individuals before her. She addressed the plaintiff first, ensuring there was no misunderstanding of the gravity of the environment. She asked if there was a problem, to which Cheryl Collins replied that there was none. The judge reminded everyone present that equal justice was about the most important values of the nation. She believed in the power of accountability and the beauty of mutual respect. The heart of the matter concerned a bill amounting to $218.69. It was a sum that represented more than just money. It represented a fractured evening and a complete breakdown of communication. Cheryl Collins claimed that she had been left with the entire bill after her first date decided to vanish in the middle of their meal. Jason Sutton, however, stood firm in his belief that he had invited her for drinks only and that her behavior had left him with no choice but to depart. Judge Williams turned her attention to Cheryl. The plaintiff was a social media influencer, a profession that the judge acknowledged with seriousness. While some might dismiss the work of an influencer, the judge knew that it could be a lucrative and demanding career, sometimes earning individuals over $100,000 a year. Cheryl explained that she and Jason had met through the digital landscape of social media. He had initiated contact by sending direct messages to her page. They had spoken for a couple of weeks, sharing stories and getting to know one another over the phone. Jason had originally suggested meeting for coffee or ice cream, but Cheryl had declined those options. She explained to the court that she did not drink coffee and was lactose intolerant, so those traditional first date ideas were not suitable for her. Eventually, they agreed on a Friday evening at 5:30 for their first in-person meeting. However, the path to this date was not smooth. Cheryl had rescheduled twice. The first time was due to a fashion shoot that lasted much longer than she had anticipated. As an influencer, her appearance and her work were her livelihood, and she felt she had to prioritize her professional obligations. The second time she rescheduled was because her father had fallen ill. Since he lived nearby, she felt a deep responsibility to care for him. Jason had been understanding of these delays, or so it seemed at the time. When the day finally arrived, they were set to meet at 5:30 in the afternoon. But Cheryl was not on time. She arrived 45 minutes late, at 6:15. When she walked into the restaurant, she found Jason waiting. She admitted to the judge that she was a little frantic and knew that being so late did not make a great impression. Despite the delay, she found that Jason looked even better in person than he did in his photographs. He was not particularly photogenic, she noted, but in real life, he was quite handsome. As they sat down, the atmosphere was already strained. Cheryl, feeling starving because she had not eaten all day, immediately ordered a margarita and an appetizer of calamari. She did not ask Jason if he wanted anything to eat, assuming he would have ordered for himself if he were hungry. Jason already had a drink in hand, which the judge noted was a sensible move for someone waiting 45 minutes. As the meal progressed, the gap between their expectations widened. Cheryl ordered another margarita and followed it with a second appetizer of fried alligator. She told the court she did not like to drink on an empty stomach. For her main entree, she chose a plate of salmon and ordered a third cocktail. While she was enjoying her meal, Jason was experiencing a very different evening. When it was his turn to speak, Jason Sutton expressed his side of the story with a quiet but firm intensity. He was a substitute teacher who worked with students from kindergarten through the 12th grade. He valued education and clear communication. He told the judge that he had been interested in Cheryl early on, but the 2 cancellations had already tested his patience. The first cancellation had come only 10 minutes before they were supposed to meet, after he had already driven to the location. He felt that a few seconds of her time could have saved him the trouble. Regarding the date itself, Jason was adamant that he had invited her for drinks, not a full dinner. He had specifically chosen the time of 5:30 because it coincided with happy hour. He wanted a casual environment where they could talk and get to know each other without the pressure of a formal meal. He arrived at 5:20, 10 minutes early. At 5:25, he received a call from Cheryl saying she would be a few minutes late. To him, a few minutes meant 5 or 10, not 45. By the time she arrived at 6:15, his excitement had turned into annoyance. When Cheryl finally sat down, Jason observed that she was beautiful, just as her photos had suggested. However, the conversation never truly began. Instead of engaging with him, Cheryl immediately focused on her phone. She was taking photos and recording videos, essentially working while on the date. To Jason, it felt as though he were not even there. He watched as she ordered appetizer after appetizer and multiple top-shelf margaritas. He tried to start a conversation, even asking about her father's illness to show he cared, but he felt ignored. The final straw came when Cheryl ordered the salmon. She was not even finished with her previous plates before she decided to add a main course and another drink to the bill. Jason felt a surge of frustration and disrespect. He felt as though he was being used as a way for her to get a free meal while she focused on her social media followers. In that moment, he decided he could not stay. He told her he was going to the restroom, but instead, he walked straight to his car and drove away without looking back. The next day, the 2 exchanged text messages. Cheryl accused him of being rude for leaving her with the bill. Jason countered that it was she who was rude for showing up 45 minutes late and then ignoring him. He did, however, send her $20 digitally to cover the cost of the drinks he had consumed. Judge Williams listened intently to both sides. She looked at the itemized bill and the digital receipts. She then spoke with a voice that was both gentle and firm, aiming to provide a lesson that went beyond the walls of the courtroom. She stated that she could not condone individuals entering a courtroom under the guise of chivalry when they were actually dating for a meal. She told Cheryl that her behavior lacked integrity and was, in a sense, a disservice to herself. By treating a date as a transaction for food rather than an opportunity for human connection, she was cheapening her own worth. The judge emphasized that if 2 people are actively investing time and energy into a relationship, expectations can and should rise. But in the context of a first meeting where the agreement was for drinks, Cheryl's expectations were out of line with the reality of the situation. The judge found that Cheryl had operated in bad faith and had wasted Jason time. In a final act of justice, Judge Williams announced her verdict. She completely dismissed the claim of the plaintiff for the sum of $218.69. She ruled in favor of the defendant, Jason Sutton. As the court was dismissed, Jason expressed his relief, stating that the greatest gift of all was never having to see Cheryl again. Cheryl, on the other hand, remained in disbelief, still feeling that she was owed the money. As they left the courtroom, the lessons of the day hung in the air. It was a story about the importance of being present, the necessity of clear communication, and the value of treating others with the same respect we wish to receive. The courthouse stood still, a silent witness to the small but meaningful quest for equal justice that had unfolded within its walls. The sun continued to shine, illuminating the path for 2 individuals who would now walk in very different directions, hopefully carrying with them a deeper understanding of what it means to be truly seen and heard.